You know what's worse than being betrayed? Being ambushed with it. There we were, Sunday evening. Oak table, linen napkins, her mom's lemon chicken in the center. Just your average dinner with the in-laws in Charleston. Emily sat to my right. Her younger sister Madison sat across from us, mid-laugh over a story I wasn't really listening to. And then, Emily set her fork down with this gentle clink. I've already filed for divorce. I swear the room exhaled. Silverware froze midair. Her mother gasped, while her father's lips clamped shut like a banker hearing about bounced checks. I turned to her slowly, not even sure I'd heard right. Excuse me. Emily didn't blink. It's done. Papers are in. You what? My voice cut through the table like a dropped plate. Her dad shifted uncomfortably. Madison's jaw went slack. You could have told me in private, I said, trying hard to keep my voice from cracking. There's no point in dragging it out, Brandon. She sipped her wine like she'd just announced a new job, not the demolition of our marriage. I've made up my mind. Emily, what the hell are you talking about? Her mother muttered. Language, but no one else backed her. Emily tilted her head, looking right at me, but not really seeing me. We're not happy. You know it. Why pretend anymore? You decided that for both of us. She shrugged. I looked around the table, hoping someone would say something. Madison opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her dad suddenly found the mashed potatoes fascinating. Her mom stared into her wine like it might explain all of this. So this was it. 10 years, blindsided over salad. I leaned back slowly and picked up my glass. Tell me something. Emily, why here? Why this moment? She folded her napkin, neatly, calmly. Because I wanted you to hear it with witnesses. Oh, so I don't cause a scene? She gave the faintest nod. You can be reactive. No, I said, standing. I can be loyal. I can be committed. But I'm not reactive. Not unless I'm lied to. Emily just stared ahead. I deserve to know the real reason, I said, more to myself than to her. Because this isn't about growing apart. This is something else. Brandon, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I laughed under my breath and sat back down. You just lit a match in a powder keg and told me not to cough. You think I'm going to just swallow that? Can we please just eat? Her mother asked, voice trembling. I looked at Madison, who still hadn't said a word, and I saw it. Something flickered in her eyes. Shock, sure, but also confusion. So maybe she didn't know either. I set my glass down carefully and forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Bon appetit, everyone. And while they picked at their food in stony silence, I made a quiet promise to myself. I was going to find out what she wasn't telling me, no matter what it cost. It was almost 10 p.m. when we got back home. The ride was dead silent. Emily kept her eyes on the road like I wasn't even there. No music, no small talk, just the quiet hum of tires on pavement and my thoughts chasing themselves in circles. As soon as we stepped through the door, she headed straight for the kitchen like nothing had happened. I dropped my keys onto the side table, still stunned. Still trying to figure out which version of her I'd been married to this whole time. I followed her in. She stood by the counter, filling the kettle like it was just another Monday. The audacity of normalcy made my jaw tighten. You want to tell me what that was? I asked, leaning on the doorway. She didn't look up. I already did. At dinner? With your parents and your sister? My voice rose slightly. You couldn't wait 2 hours to talk to me like a human being? She poured water into a mug, dropped in a chamomile bag. It's done, Brandon. No, I said, walking in, voice sharper now. You filed. You decided. But don't pretend like that means it's over. She turned around slowly, both hands wrapped around the mug. Calm as a monk. I don't love you anymore, she said simply. I stared at her. Try again. She blinked. We've grown apart. You stopped being fun. We barely talk. It's not working. I crossed my arms. You mean I stopped going to wine bars and pretending to like brunch photos? I stopped trying to impress your friends who don't even know how to spell loyalty. That what you mean? She sipped her tea. You remember last year? I said. When you had that surgery, couldn't move for days, and I slept on the floor next to the bed just to make sure you didn't need anything? She didn't respond. What about the trip to Asheville? I planned the whole thing because you said you missed the mountains. Rented that cabin with the skylight, remember that? You cried under the stars. Said you'd never felt closer to me. I remember, she said quietly. Then tell me what changed, I asked. Because if this is about me not being fun, then let's call it what it is. You're bored. And you think jumping ship's the cure. Brandon, she said, finally meeting my eyes. Not everything has to be dramatic. Sometimes people just change. No, I said, shaking my head. People don't just change like that. Not without a reason. She sighed and turned away, taking another sip of her tea like she was above the conversation. And that's when I saw it. Not guilt. Not even regret. Just apathy. The kind of indifference that stings worse than hate. I took a step back. You're hiding something. She laughed under her breath. You always need there to be some grand conspiracy, don't you? No. I need truth. I need the woman I'm married to look me in the eye when she burns down everything we built. She shrugged and walked past me toward the hallway. I'm tired, Brandon. We can keep rehashing this, or we can move on like adults. I didn't stop her. I stood there, hands clenched at my sides, watching the steam rise from her untouched tea. And in that silence, something inside me shifted. The heartbreak didn't vanish, but something colder settled in its place. Suspicion. Whatever she was running from. I was going to find it. You'd think walking into a divorce hearing would feel like a funeral. Instead, it felt like a presentation. Like we were here to pitch a product instead of dissolve a life. The courtroom was one of those polished downtown places. White walls, glass everywhere, like a boutique hotel trying too hard. The air smelled of lemon cleaner and cold strategy. I sat beside my attorney, Troy Gleason, and tried not to bounce my leg. I wore the navy suit Emily bought me for our 5th anniversary. I don't know why I chose that one. Maybe I wanted to remind her what she was throwing away. She was already seated when I walked in. Same woman, different presence. Emily looked serene. Detached. She wore a cream blouse and black slacks like she was on her way to a board meeting, not the end of our marriage. Her lawyer, some guy named Daniel Curran, stood beside her flipping through folders like he was about to sell her in a merger. She didn't look at me. Not even once. The judge, a sharp woman with wire-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense tone, opened the session with formalities. I barely heard her. My eyes were fixed on Emily. Her stillness. Her calm. The way she crossed her ankles like she had nothing to lose. And then came the curveball. Daniel stood and said, Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Emily Cross, would like it entered into the record that she is waiving claim to all jointly owned assets. That includes the marital home, savings accounts, retirement funds, and shared property. She seeks no alimony and wishes to finalize the divorce swiftly and cleanly. The room didn't react, but my heart did. Wait, what? I turned toward Troy. He blinked once, then leaned in. Did she just? Yeah, I whispered back. She did. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Cross, can you confirm this? Emily stood with smooth precision. Her voice was clear. Yes, Your Honor. I want nothing from Brandon. I'm not contesting anything. I just want to move on. Move on. That phrase hit me like a punch to the ribs. Because that's exactly what she sounded like, someone who had already moved on. Troy stood. We respectfully request a brief recess to review these changes before proceeding. Granted, the judge said. 15 minutes. Please return at 10 after. We stepped into the hallway. The second we were out of sight, I exhaled hard, as if I'd been holding my breath for weeks. Troy spun on me. All right, either your wife's had a spiritual awakening, or she's playing chess 4 moves ahead. She's up to something, I muttered. No one walks away from that kind of money unless there's something they don't want us looking into. She doesn't even want the cabin, I said, shaking my head. She begged me to buy that place. It was her dream to sit under the stars and feel small again. Troy took out a small notepad. Okay, let's track this. When did she file for divorce? 2 weeks ago. And when did things go cold between you? I thought about that. She started acting distant maybe 4 months back. Stopped asking about my day. Started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. Took solo weekends to clear her head. Troy's pen stopped. You think she's with someone? I didn't answer. He nodded. Yeah, me too. Back inside, I watched her through the glass walls. She was laughing at something her lawyer said, the kind of polite chuckle you give when the waiter makes a joke about calories. Carefree. Unburdened. I felt like I was watching a stranger wearing my wife's face. Back in session, everything moved fast. Emily agreed to the asset split without blinking. No questions, no hesitation. Just signatures. You sure you want to do this? The judge asked once more. Yes, Emily said, her voice almost gentle. And that was it. The gavel came down like a muted thunderclap. We stood. The court clerk handed me a packet of paperwork. I caught myself glancing at her hand. Her ring was gone. I didn't know what I expected. A final look? A crack in the mask? A flicker of the woman who used to love me? But Emily walked out without a glance. Like I was never even there. Troy clapped a hand on my shoulder. We're not done. She's hiding something. You'll see. I didn't reply. I just stood there in that cold room, staring at the empty space she left behind. And in my gut, I knew he was right. She hadn't just left me. She'd replaced me. I just didn't know with who. Yet, I couldn't sleep. After the hearing, the house felt quieter than usual. Too quiet. Like even the walls had questions they were too polite to ask. I'd lie in bed, stare at the ceiling, and hear everything. The ticking of the thermostat, the hum of the fridge downstairs, the silence where her breathing used to be. By night 3, I gave up pretending. I started sleeping in the study. Or rather, not sleeping. Just sitting in that worn leather chair by the window, staring at nothing and thinking about everything. I tried reading. I tried Netflix. I even tried cleaning out the junk drawer, hoping that maybe organizing batteries and paper clips would untangle my brain. But nothing helped. The ache stayed. The questions stayed. Especially one. Why was she in such a rush to get rid of me? That's when I opened her Instagram. I hadn't checked it since before all this blew up. I don't know what I was looking for, some kind of proof, maybe, that I hadn't lost my mind. That I wasn't just being bitter. She'd blocked me. Of course she had. But I wasn't stupid. Madison had once tagged her in something, and I remembered the handle. I opened a new browser, searched it in private mode, and just like that, I was in. Her profile was still public. Most of it was what you'd expect: sunset shots, matcha lattes, staged selfies, captions about healing and finding peace. But then I scrolled down, and there it was. A photo from just 2 weeks ago, taken at a vineyard I recognized. We'd gone there once for our anniversary. The same place where she said, "I want to grow old with you in a house that smells like books and soup." But this time, she wasn't with me. She was with a man. Not just in the photo, on her. His arm around her shoulders. Her head tilted toward his like it belonged there. She was mid-laugh, like he'd just said something clever in private. Their wine glasses nearly touched. The moment was too familiar. Too intimate. The caption? Grateful for new chapters. Wineglass sparkles. My hand froze on the trackpad. I zoomed in slightly, as if seeing the picture at 105% would make it less real. The post was dated barely 10 days after our official separation. 10 days. There was no way that was new. You don't get that comfortable, that quickly, with someone after a breakup. Not unless something started before. My stomach turned cold. So that was it. She wasn't just done with me. She'd already replaced me. And suddenly, all her calm smiles, her courtroom generosity, her clipped answers, they made sense. She wasn't being noble. She was covering her tracks. I shut the laptop with more force than I intended. My chest burned, but not with grief. Not anymore. What I felt now? It was heat. Rising. Sharp. She didn't fall out of love. She cheated. And now, I was done feeling broken. Now, I wanted answers. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted something else too. It had been 6 days since I saw the photo. 6 days of pretending I still needed time to process, when what I was really doing was calculating. Every word Emily had said, every odd behavior, every timeline she gave. None of it added up. And I wasn't just angry now. I was determined. Then came the text. Madison, hey, can I steal you for a coffee this week? Just to check in. My treat. I hesitated. Madison and I hadn't talked much since the dinner. Just a short, awkward exchange outside the courtroom. She'd hugged me like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to. But now I needed her insight more than ever. So I replied, me, tomorrow works. Somewhere quiet. She sent the name of a little cafe tucked into a brownstone block near Fort Greene. I knew it well. Old brick, creaky chairs, baristas who wrote your name in cursive foam when they liked you. Emily used to love it there. I got there first. The place smelled like cinnamon and old wood. I picked a booth near the back, far from the hum of laptops and first dates. Madison arrived 5 minutes later in a big wool coat and a knit hat that half covered her forehead. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. She sat down with a soft smile. Hey, Brandon. Hey. A beat passed. Then another. Finally, she sighed. I wasn't sure you'd say yes. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. But I'm glad you asked. She tucked her hands around a mug and looked down at the steam. You've been on my mind, she said. That dinner, The way Emily just dropped that news. Brandon, I had no idea. None. I believe you, I said. And I did. Another pause. Her voice softened. How have you been holding up? I took a breath, staring into my Americano. I'm managing. But there's something I need to ask you. And I need you to be straight with me. Madison leaned in slightly, concerned. Okay. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my phone, and turned the screen toward her. The vineyard photo. Her face changed instantly. She blinked. Wait, who is that? You don't recognize him? No. She looked again, slower this time. Where was this taken? Roseland Winery. Just outside Beacon. Her eyebrows jumped. That's your anniversary spot, isn't it? Was. She looked at the photo again, then back at me. Brandon, I swear, I've never seen that guy before. Emily never mentioned anyone. I'd remember something like this. You're sure? Positive. I sat back, folding my arms. Then she's lying to everyone. Even you. Madison stared at the screen a moment longer, then let out a slow, frustrated breath. She used to tell me everything. I mean, she'd call just to rant about what color throw pillows to buy. And now, she looked up, eyes narrowed. Now she says she's focusing inward. Whatever that means. I studied her. Do you think she'd cheat? Madison didn't answer right away. Then quietly, I think. I don't know her the way I used to. And I don't like that. We both sat in silence for a while, the clink of spoons and low jazz around us the only sound. There was something deeply wrong, and we both knew it. She played it too cool in court, I said. She looked settled, like someone who wasn't mourning the end of anything. Madison nodded slowly. She's hiding something. I'll try to ask around. Quietly. I met her eyes. Thank you. She smiled faintly. I didn't pick your side, Brandon. I just know what betrayal feels like. And this isn't over. I left the cafe that day with something unexpected, not just a lead, but an ally. 2 months. It's strange how quickly pain can soften into routine. After the coffee with Madison, something shifted. We didn't plan it. We didn't even talk about it. But she started showing up, dropping off leftover soup, texting me memes late at night, inviting me to join her on walks when the weather was decent. I never expected comfort to come from her. But maybe that's why it worked. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She just sat with the pieces beside me. One Thursday, it rained so hard the streetlights looked like smeared stars. Madison had shown up soaked. Her umbrella flipped inside out like a broken bird wing. I gave her one of my hoodies, and we ended up on the couch with popcorn and old movies, laughing at dialogue we both memorized from childhood. She fell asleep on my shoulder that night. I didn't move for over an hour. Didn't want to. It was quiet, uncomplicated. So when she started staying over more often, leaving her book on the nightstand, her toothbrush beside mine, it didn't feel like crossing a line. It felt like reaching solid ground after months of drifting. Then came the knock. It was late, close to midnight, and the rain was still coming down in heavy sheets. I was halfway through folding a blanket when I heard it. Not the hurried tapping of someone caught in the storm, but slow, deliberate knocks. I opened the door. Emily stood there in a black coat, soaked through. Her hair clung to her face. Her mascara had melted into 2 dark smudges beneath her eyes. She looked like she'd walked out of a sad indie film. Brandon, she whispered, voice breaking. Honey, can we just start over? I stared at her. She took a shaky breath and stepped forward. I made a mistake. Everything's falling apart. I was wrong about everything. She reached for my hand. Before I could say a word, I heard a voice behind me. Actually, Madison's voice was calm, low, but firm. He already started. Emily's eyes snapped to her. Madison stood at the hallway entrance, barefoot in one of my flannel shirts, towel drying her hair with slow, casual strokes. The room turned electric. Emily's hand dropped. Her lips parted, then closed again. Then, just as quickly, opened with venom. You've got to be kidding me. Madison raised an eyebrow. I'm not. You're seriously sleeping with my husband? Madison corrected smoothly. You made sure of that. Wow. Emily let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Was this your plan all along? Get close, then swoop in the second I left? No plan, Madison said, walking past me and setting the towel on a chair. Just a connection. Something real. You're disgusting. Then why are you here? Madison asked. You dumped him. You had someone else. Or did that fall apart too? Emily's eyes flashed. You always wanted what I had, didn't you? Madison didn't flinch. No. I just stopped pretending you deserved it. That did it. Emily stepped forward, voice rising. You think you're better than me? I think I'm honest. That's already more than you can say. I moved between them. That's enough. But they weren't listening anymore. Years of sisterly tension spilled out right there in the foyer. Words sharpened like knives. Accusations flew, some rooted in childhood, some brand new. Emily's voice cracked. Madison stood her ground. The rain pounded the windows like it was trying to join the argument. Finally, Emily turned to me, breath shaking. This is what you want now. I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see the woman I used to love. I saw someone who had left me in a room full of strangers just to avoid looking me in the eye. I nodded once. Yes. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just stared for a moment, then turned and walked back into the storm without a word. I closed the door behind her. Madison stood silent, arms folded. Her lip trembled just slightly. Sorry, I didn't mean for it to explode like that. I walked over and gently took her hand. She came to rewrite the story, I said quietly. You just reminded her she doesn't hold the pen anymore. It started with an email. Then 3 more. Item was broken, looked cheap. Overpriced trash. Don't buy. Arrived late. She's clearly unprofessional. All posted within hours of each other. All from freshly made usernames with no purchase history. Madison stared at her laptop like it had just punched her in the stomach. Brandon, someone's targeting my shop. I sat down beside her, eyes scanning the reviews. These aren't real customers. No, she said quickly. I track every order. None of these names match anything I've shipped. I watched her bite her lip. Her hands shook slightly as she clicked through the damage. Her rating had dropped from 5 stars to 3.1 in a day. Then she turned to me, her voice quieter. I think it's Emily. That word hit the air like a match. She didn't want to believe it. Neither did I, but it made too much sense. I pulled out my phone and opened our last text thread. Cold silence since the night she stormed out. But not today. I typed. Me. Are you seriously tanking Madison's business now? A minute passed. Then, Emily. Face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, Emily. Wow. She cries to you, and you run to defend her Etsy empire? Emily. Tell her to make something people actually want to buy. I stared at the screen. Not a denial. Not even a good lie. Just smugness. Childish, smug, pathetic. I stood and started pacing. Madison sat still, watching me like she wasn't sure if she should be more angry or more hurt. She's not just being petty, Madison said, voice barely above a whisper. She wants me gone. She won't win, I said. Not again. I typed one last message. Me? Grow up, Emily. You lost the moment you stopped pretending you had class. I tossed the phone onto the table. The room felt heavy. No shouting this time. Just silence, thick and sour. Madison pulled her knees up on the couch, hugging them close. She's not letting go, is she? No, I said. But that doesn't mean she gets to keep pulling strings. We sat like that for a long time. Just the sound of the rain ticking on the windows again, and the quiet weight of knowing some people don't want closure. They want chaos. I didn't expect to wake up trending. But there it was, my name, tagged in a stream of side eyes and popcorn emojis on Madison's phone. Emily posted a video, she said, scrolling in disbelief. Oh my God. She turned the screen to me. There she was, hair tousled perfectly, voice trembling just enough, framed in the soft glow of a ring light. Crocodile tears. Breathless pauses. That same old performance. I feel so violated. She said into the camera, blinking hard. I supported him for years. And then I find out he's sleeping with my sister? It's sick. And she was in my house all the time, pretending to be supportive, pretending to care. They manipulated me. It was emotional abuse. I didn't even blink. Madison just stared. Abuse? She left you. She cheated on you. That's not the story she's telling. I said, jaw tightening. And now a few hundred strangers believe every word. The comments poured in fast. He sounds like a narcissist. Blood doesn't mean anything to some people. This is why I have trust issues. That night, we almost skipped the party. But we'd promised Caleb, a mutual friend of mine and Emily's, that we'd show. He was launching a rooftop bar in Williamsburg, and Madison had even made him a bracelet with the name engraved. Let's go, I finally said. Let them see us. Let them see the truth. The rooftop was already buzzing when we arrived. String lights swayed in the wind. and soft music hummed through the speakers. Madison wore a dark green dress, simple but elegant. I caught a few stares the moment we stepped out of the elevator. Whispers. Subtle nods. Emily had gotten here first. We saw her by the bar, surrounded by a small cluster of people, some of them old mutual friends. She was mid-sob, clinging to a glass of white wine like it was her final lifeline. Madison's grip tightened on my arm. She's turning this into theater. I know, I whispered. But not for long. It didn't take long for Emily to spot us. Her whole demeanor shifted. Tears dried, spine straightened. She stepped forward like she was entering a courtroom. "You're really showing your faces here?" she said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Madison exhaled. "You posted a video, Emily. You tried to assassinate our names." "I told the truth," she snapped. "People needed to know what you are." "Emily," I said calmly, "this isn't a trial. It's a party. But if you want to confront us, let's be honest about what you've done." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, please. You want to paint me as the villain now?" "You cheated first," I said. "You lied. You filed for divorce in front of your family and blindsided me. I didn't run to the internet about it." Her voice rose. "That doesn't mean you had to jump into bed with my sister." "I didn't jump into anything," I said. "But you sure jumped out of our marriage fast." People had started watching now, guests quieting, heads turning. Emily's voice cracked. You're trying to make me look crazy." "No," Madison said quietly. "You're doing that all by yourself." That was the last straw. Emily exploded, her voice pitched, wild, throwing out accusations like darts. I stood still, didn't interrupt. Just let her unravel. Let everyone see it. And slowly, they did. Faces around us shifted. The sympathy that had gathered around her earlier, it was gone now. People weren't nodding anymore. They were backing away, uncomfortable, whispering. Emily stopped, realized she was standing alone. I took a slow step forward. "You came here to destroy us. But you forgot something." She blinked. "You don't get to rewrite the ending." She stared at me for a beat, then turned, grabbed her purse, and stormed toward the elevator without another word. Silence followed. Then someone near the bar said softly, "Well, that was clarifying." Madison let out a shaky breath and reached for my hand. That didn't go how she expected. "No," I said, but it went exactly how it needed to. The air still hadn't settled. After Emily's dramatic exit, the rooftop seemed to hover in this strange in-between, like everyone was waiting to see if that really just happened. Madison stood beside me, still gripping my hand, her other arm loosely crossed over her stomach like she was holding herself together. Then the elevator dinged. Heads turned. Conversations stopped again. Out stepped a man I didn't recognize at first. Tall, clean-cut, dressed like someone who didn't normally belong at rooftop parties. His shoulders were tense, eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. And Madison whispered, "Brandon, I think that's the guy from the vineyard photo." My stomach dropped. He walked toward us, fast but not aggressive. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched at his sides. He stopped a few feet away, chest heaving like he'd run the whole block. "Are you Brandon?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah. And you are?" He looked past me, toward the crowd still lingering nearby, then back at me. "My name's Ian. I was involved with Emily, the man in that vineyard photo." Madison stiffened beside me. Ian shoved a hand through his hair, exhaling hard. "I need to say something. Not to just you." He turned slightly, raising his voice. "To everyone here." Guests looked up again, half-drained cocktails in hand, confusion written across their faces. Ian continued, louder now. "I thought Emily was honest with me. She told me her marriage was over long before the papers were filed. She said Brandon had moved on, that he'd been cold, emotionally unavailable, all that classic stuff. I believed her. I could already feel the shift in the air. But last week," he said, voice cracking just slightly, "I found out I wasn't the only one. She was seeing someone else while she was seeing me. A third guy, some guy from her yoga studio." A hush fell over the entire rooftop. Glasses were lowered. Jaws slackened. "She lied to me," Ian said, turning back to me now. "And she lied to you." He looked ashamed, but not defensive. His eyes held mine with a weight that said he wasn't here to stir drama, just to set something right. "I didn't know, and I'm sorry for being part of the damage." He extended a hand. I looked at it for a second, then shook it. A few people clapped softly, not loud, not dramatic. but enough to make Emily's earlier claims feel like sand slipping through fingers. Ian gave me a small, grateful nod, then turned and left the same way he came. No speeches, no lingering, just truth, spoken plain. As the elevator doors closed behind him, Madison let out a long, slow breath. Well, she said. Turns out she was lying to everyone. I looked around at the guests. Many were whispering, shaking their heads, already updating their internal narratives. Whatever Emily had tried to frame, it had just shattered in real time. I think we're done apologizing for existing, I said. Madison smiled, that slow, knowing kind of smile. Yeah, she said. We are. The next morning, the sun came through the windows in wide, soft streaks. For the first time in what felt like months, the light didn't feel harsh. It felt earned. I was in the kitchen flipping pancakes when Madison came in, phone in hand, wrapped in my old college sweatshirt. She looked dazed, but not in a bad way. Something happened? I asked. She nodded, setting her phone down gently on the counter. It's over. I raised an eyebrow. What is? Emily's campaign. Her little smear tour. It collapsed overnight. She slid the phone toward me, screen still lit. I scanned the texts and posts, messages from people she used to call her core circle, friends distancing themselves. A few calling her out directly. One read, "You said Brandon cheated. But turns out you were seeing two guys at once. Maybe sit this one out for a while." Another, "You need help, Em. Not more videos." And then the final nail, Emily's most recent Instagram story. A blank screen, white text on black, taking time off. Please respect my privacy while I regroup. I set the phone down slowly. She moved back in with her parents, Madison added. Lost her contract job at that digital agency. Her Etsy clone went down. One of her exes apparently left a pretty detailed review. I leaned against the counter, letting out a long breath. Wow. I almost feel bad for her, she said softly. Almost. Madison walked over, wrapped her arms around my waist, resting her chin on my chest. I know it's wrong to say this, but it finally feels like the storm broke. I nodded. Yeah, it does. We stood there like that for a while. No music, no tension, no mess to clean up. Just the smell of pancakes and sunlight, and something new filling the space where resentment used to live. The living room felt different too. Brighter. As if the house itself had unclenched its fists. You okay? She asked after a moment. Honestly, I said, brushing her hair behind her ear. I think I finally am. And for once, that wasn't a script I was telling myself. It was just true. We didn't celebrate. We didn't gloat. We just breathed. And in that quiet, I realized peace doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it just steps in, barefoot and unannounced, while you're making pancakes. It was a quiet Tuesday evening. Madison was out meeting a client, and I was home alone, sorting through a box of old college stuff in the hallway closet, trying to decide if I really needed 4 nearly identical gray hoodies. I just pulled out an old yearbook when the doorbell rang. 1 knock, then 2. Slow, hesitant. I didn't need to check the peephole. I already knew. When I opened the door, Emily stood there, raincoat wrapped tight around her, eyes puffy, makeup smudged. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Hair unwashed, shoulders slumped. Not the woman who walked into court like she owned the place. Not the one who threw wine and accusations under rooftop lights. Just Emily, fragile, hollowed out. Hi, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. She looked past me into the hallway like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to step inside. I don't want to cause a scene, she said. I need 5 minutes. I still didn't say anything. Emily's fingers clenched around the strap of her bag. I lost everything. My job, my friends. Everyone's talking. I can't show my face anywhere without someone giving me that look. She gave a faint, broken laugh. You know the one. The pity-laced, gossip-dripping, oh, poor girl stare. I nodded once. Slowly. Her face crumpled a bit more at that. I know I hurt you, she said. I lied. I ran. And I don't deserve forgiveness. But if there's a way back, just tell me what I can do. She took a step forward. I'll do anything, Brandon. I just want to fix this. Us. I let her words hang in the air. Let them land where they may. Then I said, quiet and steady, you can start by getting out of my life forever. She blinked, like she hadn't prepared for that answer. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, searching for some angle. But there wasn't one left. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I didn't ask her why she waited until everything had burned down before crawling back through the ashes. I just stood there, still, resolved. I mean it, I said gently. This door doesn't open for you anymore. Her chin quivered, but I didn't move. No anger, no spite, just finality. She turned away slowly, shoulders hunched, tears streaking down silently now, not for show, just real. I watched her walk down the steps, her shoes echoing wetly on the pavement. And when she reached the street corner, I closed the door. Not slammed, not with force, just shut, firm, done. I leaned back against the wood, closed my eyes, and exhaled. Not relief, not triumph, just release. A peace I'd been chasing for months finally filled the hallway like a long-awaited breeze. When Madison came home 20 minutes later, she found me sitting on the couch, yearbook open in my lap. "Everything okay?" she asked. I looked up and smiled. "Yeah," I said. "It finally is." And that was the end of the story. I keep thinking about the moment Madison stood in that hallway, towel in her hand, and calmly told Emily. Actually, he already started. She could have backed down, could have stepped aside to avoid the storm, but she stood her ground, knowing exactly what it would ignite. Do you think she did the right thing by stepping in? Or should she have let me face Emily alone? Tell me in the comments. And if this story hit you somewhere deep, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more.